Welcome to Autism ADHD TV with Holly. That's me, a neurodivergent therapist, mom, and passionate advocate for affirming approaches. Maybe you're a parent trying to support your neurodivergent child or teen, a therapist or educator wanting to learn more, or you're a neurodivergent person looking for strategies that truly honor who you are. Whatever brought you here, you're in the right place. We talk about the real stuff: emotional regulation, self-awareness, executive functioning, self-advocacy skills that build confidence, social connections that are authentic, and so much more. And hey, if you're looking for deeper learning, check the description notes below for information on my parent workshops and continuing education trainings for therapists. You're going to love it. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and give us a so you never miss out. And if you find Autism ADHD TV helpful, please share it with someone, because together we can create more understanding about neurodiversity. Now let's get into it. Welcome, Dr. Adrian Wood, to the Autism ADHD Podcast.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here.
I am so thrilled that you're here. I'm going to introduce you really quick. Dr. Adrian Wood is a rural Eastern North Carolina mother of 4, 3 teenagers, and an autistic 11-year-old. She has a blog, Tales of an Educated Debutante, and a new book, Autism Out Loud, with Kate Swenson and Carrie Cariello. Yesterday found out a New York Times bestseller list. That's so fantastic.
It's a little unreal.
That just speaks to how people are wanting to learn more. This book is so lovely. 3 people who have these experiences can share with other families. Today, we're going to talk about anxiety in autism. I know that you cover this in the book as well. What are your thoughts?
Anxiety is chapter 4 in Autism Out Loud, and it was the chapter I most wanted to write. Amos was, I think he was about 6 years old, and we were really struggling. We were having these meltdowns. I had no idea what was happening. I had had 3 typical children prior to Amos. And that's interesting with the 3 authors. One, it's her second son. Her oldest is a year older than she went on to have 3 more. And then my friend Kate, co-author, it's her oldest. So I was the only one that kind of had this typical experience. And then autism, anxiety, ADHD shows up in my 4th child. And so we were really struggling. And we ended up at Duke Autism Center seeing Dr. Copeland. And I drug Amos up to Durham, and we were in this office doing all these things. And he was letting me basically word vomit on him. And he said, "What you're talking about is anxiety, not autism." And that was really powerful for me. And that is a message that I wished I had known earlier. I wish I had known that was a thing, so I could have been on the lookout. And we did we had some tools in our toolbox. We did schedules and talking and kind of some things we know that help him, but we also started medication. So that in the first day, which I think I wrote about it in the book. The first day he was taking, I think it was Lexapro at the time, and the teacher sent me a text and said, "Amos just sat in the circle for 5 minutes." And this was 6 years in, and we saw the light, I think, as we really begin to understand about anxiety. So that for me was super important.
It is important. And I love that, because as parents, we want to know everything we can to support kids. Everyone experiences anxiety, right? Autistic individuals, ADHD too, the level of anxiety they experience from moment to moment is much higher. And there is a communication difference. It's not that Amos said, "Oh, hey, by the way, Mom, I'm feeling a little extra stressed today because this, that, and the other. Then someone did this and I went right over the edge."
Right. We have a service dog too. And so she alerts me to my anxiety And sometimes my anxiety comes from his anxiety. It's this partnership. But for us, as opposed to my other children being able, like you just said, to express themselves and their feelings, it really was limiting everything we were doing. I said in the book, each day we encountered things that threw Amos into a tizzy, and so we began to retreat. I was forced to hire a sitter to accomplish the most mundane and simplest of tasks. Running errands like going to the grocery store or bank or picking up a prescription proved to be too much for Amos. I had never noticed how many triggers lurked out in the world. Groups of people and automatic flushers in public bathrooms could cause us to leave a cart full of groceries or a long line. And we've made such progress. I will say though, those automatic flushers, if I'm ever president, that is my first thing I would do is ban automatic flushing toilets because we cannot go in a bathroom where they exist.
It is so hard, those daily tasks that most people don't think anything about, right? Yes, you just go to the bathroom. There's an automatic flushing toilet. It's not a big deal. Or there is a hand dryer.
He can at least walk in there if he sees the hand dryer because he
Okay.
knows that the toilet goes off randomly. It's like the basketball buzzer. If he knows it's coming, we can get ready. But it's like getting tased right from behind. That's
Sure.
I think it feels to him.
Right.
But we do a lot of traveling, and welcome to the podcast about automatic flushers. We do a lot of traveling, and all airports have automatic flushers, and so we have to plan. We have to go to the bathroom before we get to the airport. We know the gas station. That's usually the gross ones that don't have the automatic flushers.
Right.
And then and airplanes do not have automatic flushers, thank goodness. So he can go on the plane. But yeah, that's requiring a lot of planning. And we haven't even gotten to the airport yet.
It is a lot of planning. When you said like a taser, that's not being dramatic. This is the reality of your experience. Of course, everyone is different, but a lot of kids that I've provided supports to over the last 27 years, it is like that. It is a threat. You're walking through life waiting to see what's going to attack you next. Maybe a neurotypical person doesn't understand it. You're being told it's not a big deal when it feels like it's a big deal to you. And then I see that a lot of kids don't want to tell us what their experience is because it would be minimized. So I appreciate you really giving a visual and an example of how stressful that could be.
Good. It's just the truth.
It's just the truth. Exactly.
Yeah.
I think a lot of us as parents are triggering our kids and not trying to. And then the child is triggered or they're triggered and then we're triggered. And it's just two nervous systems clashing up against each other.
One thing I have done to eliminate kind of these situations where anxiety is provoked in both of us probably is that I've conceded defeat. I don't have big plans. If we go, I told you, you live in Raleigh, we're going to Raleigh to do something. And I have a list of things I want to do while I'm there. But I also recognize that we might not get to both bookstores. We might get to one, and that's okay. So I just let myself not stress about the things. Right now, if you could see my office, it looks like an episode of Hoarders in here. I haven't had time to do it. And so I just give myself grace. I think it does a lot with anxiety, or if last night was McDonald's night for school, and I really wanted Amos to go. I really wanted to go, to be honest. I wanted to show my support. I wanted the teachers to see that I supported them. And he didn't want to go, so we didn't go. I think learning not to, I think I always was raised of success, push through. And I think when you have a kiddo, Amos, or somebody neurodivergent, pushing through is not a good idea. Pushing through is basically like breaking a window. So we try not to push through. We do stretch, and my co-author Carrie says that a lot, like we're stretching, but it's very minimal what we're trying to do. The other day, Amos didn't have his blanket. He takes a blankie to school every day, and we tried for years not to have him taken. Then I've just given up. I'm like, you know what? I don't care. If the blanket helps him get to school, it's fine. But he had forgotten it that morning, or I forgot it, or however you want to. We got busy. And I said, Daddy will bring it to school, because my husband left after me. And there was a time, even a month ago, he was kind of struggling. He's grown a lot. So we were changing medications, that he wouldn't have gone into school without that blanket. He would have gone home. And then at that point, if the schedule is messed up, he would have been like, no school today. The whole day could have messed up. But he was able to walk into school without the blanket. When that was stretching, right? Like I didn't say, no blanket today, you're fine. But there was a little stretch there.
When you recognize how you were raised yourself, that gives us permission to take a step back and look at our foundational expectations. You were push through, suck it up, right? It sounds like this is the expectation. You're going to do it, period. When you don't have a nervous system that works that way, pushing through, it's potentially traumatic for everybody that's involved. And I think that shows you how important that is. It sounds like I was raised like you were, right? You push through it. You have to do this, what society expects. You're never going to be anything in life unless you do this and this.
Right, right.
When you started relaxing those expectations, do you feel like that helped you connect with him even more?
That's a good question. Probably, and I probably haven't even thought about that, to be honest, but I would say probably. So we have a chapter 12, it's called A Different Kind of Success. And in every chapter, you have the three authors giving their viewpoint. It's Kate, her son is 14, he's nonverbal. Then you have myself, Amos is 11. He spends a good part of the day in a traditional fourth grade classroom, was in an EC classroom for a couple years. He has some pullouts. And then you have my Carrie, co-author. Her son is 20 and in a supported college program and lives in an apartment alone. And so when we were choosing what we were talking about, a different kind of success is something that we've all grappled with, even though our children are all very successful in different ways. And for me, when I started, find my chapter, I think it was his siblings that really helped me see the difference in success. So I said my whole life I had measured success in a very specific way. It was the way that had been handed down through generations of my family. Work hard, get a good education, and success will be yours. I bought into the program, and by the time Amos came along, I was well on my way. Success was a well executed plan that had resulted in a happy marriage, a PhD, a parcel of children, buying a home, and even scheduling the many appointments needed for a life filled with sports and camps. It was easy to be proud in those days of parenting typical children, and my self adulation lurked beneath the surface of a naive woman. I talk about how this whole existence had been about checking off all these boxes before Amos and of success, right? Your child they got a 30 on their reading assessment. It was big successes. I finished. And now when Amos showed up, the successes were teeny tiny, Thoreau calls them mosquito wings. And so I remember Amos eating with a spoon for the first time. And my son Thomas was 9 and he started crying with happiness. And when he learned to say his siblings' names, that was maybe 4 years ago at 7, and we just wept. And so suddenly Amos was teaching us, like, boy, success can look very different, and how much I appreciate that, because no one is as successful as he is in our family. He is the most successful person, and really valuing that success looks different.
We have this idea, and then we're met with completely different set of circumstances that you aren't quite prepared for. That's what you thought success was. And being able to step back and look inside ourselves, I'm right there with you. I believe success doesn't look one way.
It doesn't mean that those other things weren't successes. I think they are successes, but it's just that the two can coexist together.
I love that. It strengthens our relationship with our kids when we can take a step back and look at it in a different way, because then we're not a punisher. In some ways, we can criticize under our words, right? If you don't do this, then this is going to happen, or you're not going to be able to live this way or take care of yours. I mean, it's really this pressure. And I think it's based on the way we were brought up and our ideas of what you have to do and when. And then we're then causing some of that anxiety for our kids, not purposefully, but basically based out of our fear.
I think I would even argue that I think it's pride.
I do, yeah.
Pride is a big one. You want to be able to report on the success.
That's
And
so
so
true.
I remember we did skiing. We went to Jackson Hole and Amos did adaptive skiing. And I knew that it meant that I was going to be at the lesson too. And we got down the hill one time and it was a lot. And the ski instructor was like, "Oh, let's do it again." I was like, "No, we're done. We're ending on a good note." And I would love to have said we skied all morning, but it wasn't about me. It was about we had some success and we're gonna just say that's enough. We've had enough success.
When you were talking about your flexibility in your parenting, so instead of it has to be this way, it should be this way, the shoulds come up. But if we don't make it to that second bookstore, that's okay. Really being able to say that's where we're at today.
Right.
And you're
Right.
not beating yourself up or beating your child up with words and disappointment. It's this is a plan that we have, but also knowing that plans can change, things happen, triggers can happen.
So wait, what was the question?
I don't know. What was it? It was
Sounded like a comment.
two tired moms.
Yeah.
Okay. Recognizing his experience with anxiety, has that actually supported you and your own anxiety by changing your approach?
And anxiety is not a real, I probably have the least of anxiety of anybody.
Okay.
Like that is just not, I have always had too much confidence and probably I don't give two whats ever. So that's always how I've been. So this kind of moved to what I do and writing this blog. And a friend of mine the other night came to my book signing and she said, "The book's for my mother." And I said, "That's great." And I giggled because her mother is very prim and proper and was a public school teacher for 30 years. And she really has an idea of how things should go and how you present yourself. And I am not it. And she said, "It's interesting. My mother is always, does she realize what she's putting out there?" And I think so, Mom. And it's true. Like, you're not anxious when you don't care. I think anxiety can come from, and not the Amos anxiety, but as a Southern woman who wants to present an image that's everything is blueberries and daisies, that
Right.
you'll cause yourself to have some anxiety if you're trying to set up a persona. And I don't set up a persona. And that probably helps me not have anxiety. I was on stage in front of 400 people last month and I thought, what if the microphone doesn't work? And I was like, it's fine. All these people that know me know that I would laugh and that's what I would do. So that's really freeing. I think it's really freeing to, if you're holding something and burying it inside, it's going to own you and drown you. But if you just put it out there, it's not. Like talking about the future or talking about medicine. And again, these things go with our pride, right? Like we want everybody to think we're amazing mothers and women and we're just all the same. Trying. Most days, sometimes we don't even try. Sometimes we're tired.
A lot of times we're tired, Adrian. A lot of times we're tired. I love how you can then also model that for your child. If they feel like they're being compared all the time, if they feel like they're doing everything wrong all the time, that's not good for their mental health either.
Yeah, and Amos is such that he doesn't have a awareness of that. For him, he's not aware that he could be aware, but I don't see it. Like Amos would go to school naked if you let him. Like he doesn't have any of those typical 11-year-old type things when I think of my other children when they were 11. Where I notice the biggest difference is with my other children, though. That they're recognizing behavior and what's acceptable. And you go from being maybe embarrassed of, oh, what's going to happen to this is who we are and wanting them to see that and accept that. Because that's hard when you're a young teenager, it's my 15-year-old daughter, I feel like in the last year has really come out on the other side of going from let's not take Amos with us to he needs to go.
The siblings are going to have their feelings, and those are valid. There are a lot of mixed feelings, and being able to talk about those things is so important.
Yeah, and so I got in our sibling chapter, I'll read you a little snippet. I had gotten this email, and this is what it said. They did not agree to this. You have forced them and they are hostage. Just what effect do you think that this is having on your own children? The question was rhetorical and meant to shame me, to be filled with guilt about the life our family had been gifted. After all, Amos's three older siblings hadn't signed up for special needs, but still I asked myself the question, what effect do I think having a special needs sibling is having on my children? And I go into each child and their relationship with Amos and things that they had noticed. And I'm so thankful that they've been witness to this life that's not easy or predictable or commonplace, but they're amazing humans because of him, not in spite of him.
That makes sense.
And that's really important. And I think someday it could be my oldest son wrote a college essay about his wrestling team, and they had gone into the dining hall late, and it was rainy, and everybody got their food and sat down at a table, and one young man sat down alone at another table, and Thomas got up and walked over and said, hey, come sit with us. And that comes from knowing the odd man out. He lives with him, and we can't, I think sometimes parents want to expect the world to be kind, but we've got to, it really starts at the ground level. I was telling some moms the other night that it's a big homeschooling community, which is delightful and wonderful, though I have no idea how that would ever work for Amos. During COVID, I couldn't even get him to watch a Zoom. So I was like, this is done. But anyway, I said one thing I think, and it might not be popular, is that if Amos isn't in a school, then how do we expect the world to be kind to the Amoses if they never have access to Amos? Like, we can't have our cake and eat it too. I can't expect that 40-year-old Amos show up after being in my house for 40 years and people to be nice to him at the grocery store. It would be great, but it's not realistic. So I think it's really important that we do share our stories and that we do talk and be open about things and that we get out into church and the grocery. I think we've got to be willing to do that to make the world kinder.
It is important. And I love that more and more people are learning about neurodiversity. Hopefully, that helps everyone to be more understanding. Him being the most successful person in your family, thinking of things in a different way, that's what moves us forward.
Yeah, totally agree. Totally agree.
Okay, tell us about where we can get your book.
So Autism Out Loud is sold wherever books are sold. Mainly, it seems like more online. We're begging bookstores to put it in. We're hoping that the New York Times bestseller list might encourage that a little bit more.
I would think so.
But you can order online from Target or Barnes and Noble. Go to your local bookstore, and if they don't have it, say, I've heard this book is incredible. It's on the New York Times bestseller list. You need to get at least 10 copies. That would be helpful. And then we have a bookstore called The Duck's Cottage. It's in Eastern North Carolina. And she is selling copies that are signed by all six of us, 3 boys and 3 mothers.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So we have got a special run of 500 of those available, and that is the only place you will get that option. So
I love that. Thank you for letting us know. I will make sure to have the links below so everyone can run and get your amazing book.
oh, thank you so much for having me on today. I really enjoyed it.
It was so great to see you. And I hope that you'll come back on and visit me again.
Oh, I'd love to. Anytime. I need to learn how to do a podcast. So this could
I can help you with that.
be
I can
good.
help you with that.
That'd be good.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Okay.
That's a wrap on today's episode. If you found this helpful, please consider hitting that like button and subscribe so you don't miss anything. And if you're thinking, oh, I know somebody who would really appreciate this episode, please send it on to them. Also, don't forget, go down to that description below because I have loaded it with free resources and information on my parent workshops and continuing education trainings for therapists. Everything you need to keep learning and growing. Thank you for being here, for caring, and for choosing neurodiversity affirming approaches. I look forward to seeing you next time on Autism ADHD TV. Take care.
All content provided is protected under applicable copyright, patent, trademark, and other proprietary rights. All content is provided for informational and educational purposes only. No content is intended to be a substitute for professional medical or psychological diagnosis, advice, or treatment. Information provided does not create an agreement for service between Holly Blanc Moses Crossvine Clinical Group, the interviewee, Holly Blanc Moses LLC, and the recipient. Consult your physician regarding the applicability of any opinions or recommendations with respect to your symptoms or medical condition or the symptoms or medical condition of your family member. Children or adults who show signs of dangerous behavior toward themselves and or others should be placed immediately under the care of a qualified professional.